restore the heavenly lineage. And again, that's taking a particular theology and then imposing that upon the Bible and interpreting the Bible in that particular way, which is very different to the Jewish understanding of the Hebrew Bible, and it's also different to the Christian understanding of the Bible as well. And that's the sort of thing going on. So basically, what is the significance of the biblical myth? This is the biblical myth compared to the Gnostic myth or the Christian myth. God created the universe. God created Adam and Eve. They're not begotten. All humanity is descended from Adam and Eve. So that's a nice thing. Judaism started with who? Abraham. Founder of Judaism and also Christianity. Islam came from there. But the Bible doesn't start with Abraham. It starts with Adam and Eve. Yep. This is really important. It means from a biblical point of view, every single human being, irrespective of their race, their religion, or their nationality, is a son or daughter of God. Yeah? That's really important. This is the way it is. All humanity is descended from Adam and Eve. And every single human being then is a son or daughter of God. And then it has the myth of Noah and the flood, and after the flood, then God makes a covenant, the rainbow thing, with all of humanity, and gives 5 laws, or was it 7 laws? 7 laws, I think, that all human beings should observe. And then later on, you have Abraham comes along in the beginning of this particular lineage. So, despite that, God's saying, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Still, in the Bible, God identifies himself and says that all human beings are still God's people. And so when Moses has his confrontation with Pharaoh, he said, God said, Israel is my firstborn son. That's it. Or everybody else, all other human beings are still my children. It's just he picked out this particular group for a particular purpose, chosen them for a particular purpose. But that doesn't mean that all the other human beings aren't God's sons and daughters. As Jesus said, God sends the rain on the good and the bad. They're all God's children. And so in that sense, the Bible is not a Nazi. Where, it's this race, it's the chosen, It's every single human being or son or daughter of God, irrespective of their race, nationality, color, or anything else. That's one of the great things about the Bible, which is quite different to lots of other traditions, which emphasize a particular lineage starts in a particular place, and all the other people are not part of that lineage. That's sort of end up with Nazism, and some races are higher than other races. If you're an Aryan, you're okay. If you're a Slav, you're not. And if you're a Jew, you're not even a human being. Okay, that's not a biblical way. Okay, so Heavenly Parent had a dream from the very beginning. Yep. Desire to create an eternal world where love could be shared with Heavenly Parents, children experiencing joy and happiness together. Yep. However, Adam and Eve failed to keep the commandment regarding the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and this led to a world of satanic lineage. That's not the biblical way of looking at it. But satanic lineage are still God's sons and daughters. And Father himself said, the only thing is we don't realize it. People don't realize that they're God's sons and God's daughters. They don't realize that God loves them unconditionally. When you start talking about a satanic lineage, you end up moving into Nazi ideology, to be honest. It's not good. Heavenly Parent established the nation of Israel to restore their heavenly lineage. Here the biblical vision, Mosaic vision, is about establishing a world of peace and justice. Not about lineage, it's about peace and justice. Heavenly Parent, who is the same in the beginning and end, chose Israel as a chosen people among fallen humanity to restore the heavenly lineage. The chosen people of Israel had the mission of being the central nation for the birth of the only begotten Son and the only begotten daughter. So that's a different interpretation. That's not how the Jews see themselves. That's not how they see their place in God's providence. They see that they were chosen by God according to the biblical tradition of bringing truth and love to humanity, teaching people about God and teaching people about the moral law. Yeah, and every human being should observe the 7 laws given to Noah, whereas the Jews have got extra burden placed on them, lots of extra laws which they should observe. So this idea here, that's not the... Anyway, as I said, it's a different way of, a different kind of theology being imposed on the part of the biblical tradition. Heavenly Parent established the chosen people of Israel to restore their heavenly lineage. Heavenly Parent established conditions by representing the side of good and setting terms against the representative of evil, subduing the side of evil. So again, it's uncomfortable. You say, oh, this nation's good, that nation's evil. But biblical understanding, actually, every single human being is a mixture of good and evil. Every single nation also as well. And so in the Bible, in the Old Testament, there are quite a lot of references to the good things of other nations that weren't Jews. It's not unusual. So there's that story of, God, what's the name? Who's the one who went to this other capital and fasted? What was that? Jonah, that's right. Jonah the Jew. God told him to go off to Nineveh, and he went off to Nineveh, and he told them, if you don't mend your ways, God is going to destroy the city. And so he went off there, and they repented, they put on sackcloth and ashes, and then he sat on this hill, and the city wasn't destroyed, and he's really disappointed. And the whole message of this is, don't have to be Jewish to be good. Look at these people who are not Jews. They listened to the Jewish prophet who came and told them this, and they changed, they repented and changed. That's a whole biblical understanding. Every single human being, every single nation has the opportunity and the possibility of becoming like that. Nobody has a monopoly on good. Nobody has a monopoly on badness. Through absolute faith, the important event of restoring the lineage was achieved in the blessed family of Abraham, who followed their heavenly parent as a source of blessing. Yeah, Abraham had absolute faith in God. The restoration of the birthright through Jacob and Esau, and the restoration of the womb of... Oh my goodness. Is this the right slide set or not? Yeah, I guess it is. There are lots of things here I should have added. The restoration of the birthright through Jacob and Esau, and the restoration of the womb of Tamar and Perez were all steps in the preparation of the birth of the only begotten son and the only begotten daughter. That's an interesting story here. Anyway, Rebekah, the wife of Isaac, deceived her husband and firstborn Esau so that her younger son Jacob could receive the blessing and restore the birthright. Okay. Rebecca was not supposed to do that. Do you know this story well? Let's go and dig it out. I'm sorry, I'm behind. Didn't realize I was going to get this far. Okay, let's go back.
William, how can we say a satanic lineage? Because, I mean, we know Satan was the fallen archangel.
Uh-huh.
But Adam and Eve were created by God.
Yes. They were created by God. They were still God's children after the fall. God still loved Adam and Eve just as much as he did before.
I would rather say a bad lineage or a bad race rather than a fallen lineage.
Yeah, I would agree. It's the... I mean...
Actually, the original lineage were good until Eve had a relationship with Archangel.
Yeah.
So it became corrupted, yes, and so people are born with this sort of damage, you might say, and the love they received from the parents was often You can look at programs, you can read about it. Sometimes parents really mistreat their children, abuse their children, and you come across people who become pedophiles and this, that, and the other. You find out about their own childhood, and you find often they themselves were sexually abused and damaged. And so in that sense, this kind of damage gets passed on through that particular family, that particular lineage. But at the end of the day, this person's still the son or daughter of God. It really breaks God's heart when he sees this happening to a child. And obviously it breaks his heart when he sees this person growing up damaged and going and doing the same thing to another child. And so it's just heartbreaking. It's still God's children. Just as if one has one's own children, they go and commit some crime. They're still your children. Parents still go and visit them in prison, and still love them unconditionally. So to say that, you're now part of Satan's lineage, I'm cutting you off. There are some parents who do that. You're no longer my son, you're no longer my daughter. That's because you're part. That's that kind of thing. That's not the way God is. So to say someone is now part of Satan's lineage, it implies they're no longer part of God's lineage. It implies they're no longer God's son or daughter. It implies that God no longer loves them anymore because of all these bad things which they or their ancestors have done. But that's not the biblical understanding. Jesus said, God sends rain on the good and the bad. God loves every single human being. So in that sense, the idea of satanic lineage is Nazi. The Jews are not human beings. Let's go and exterminate them all. That's where you end up if you talk in those kind of terms. And I don't think it's a good way to talk about things, to be honest.
That's not what the people say.
Well, that's unfortunately what our people do, is talk about things like that. Okay. So let's have a look at this Jacob and Esau story then. Restoring a relationship between Adam and the archangel. I'm not going to talk about it. Basically, that's what it is. The archangel is the older brother, older than Adam. Adam was younger position. So Isaac and Rebekah then, they got married, had 2 children. Rebekah got pregnant after many, many years and had twins, Jacob and Esau. She said 2 nations, and they're not, what do you call it? They're not identical twins, they're
No, not those.
non-identical twins. Non-identical twins, yeah. One had a hairy skin and the other didn't. That's how you can tell. 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. One shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. Not going to talk about that. Okay, what needs to be restored here? The relationship between the archangel and Adam. Adam had to win the respect of the archangel to become the Lord of creation. So before God created Adam and Eve, the archangels were the ones who managed the development of the universe, who managed the natural world. It's all run by the archangels. So God wanted Adam to become the Lord of creation. So in order to do that, he had to win the respect of the archangel. He didn't do that. So Jacob, in the position of Adam, has to restore the birthright by winning the respect of Esau, his older brother, who is in the position of the archangel, and become the elder brother, head of the family. That's useful in English. You have older and elder. Older is just by chronological age. Elder is by seniority of status. So he could never become the older brother, but he had to become the elder brother, which means he had to win Esau's love and respect. So Esau would regard him as being a better qualified to be the head of the family than he was. So the problem started off. The boys grew up. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the outdoors, but Jacob was a mild man who stayed at home among the tents. Isaac had a taste for wild game and loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob, because he was at home doing the washing up, I guess, helping out in the kitchen. So what is a birthright? So Isaac tells his sons about the birthright. So this is the right to be the next head of the family, and it belongs to the oldest son, naturally. That's just the way it works, generally speaking. So Jacob then, he acquired the birthright. So how did he do that? So one day Jacob was cooking a stew. Esau came in from the field hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "Give me some of that stew. I'm starving." Jacob said, "Let's trade. My stew for your birthright for your rights as the firstborn." Esau said, "I'm starving. What good is a birthright to me if I'm dead?" Jacob said, "First swear it to me. I want it in writing." And he did. On oath, Esau traded away his rights as the firstborn. Jacob gave him bread and lentil stew. He ate and drank, got up and left. That's how Esau gave away his rights as the firstborn. Well, what do you think about that?
A man ruled by his body.
Yeah. So, Esau said, "I'm starving. I'm going to die." Well, you could have just made yourself a peanut butter and jam sandwich. He wasn't skin and bone like he'd come out of a death camp. He was just hungry, really hungry, starving. "I'm going to die. Oh yeah, I don't mind, selling my birthright for the sake of, some lentil stew."
He didn't appreciate his birthright.
He didn't appreciate it. He didn't value it. He didn't understand. He was just very much dominated by a physical kind of desire and didn't really understand who he was or the meaning of this. So who is the more intelligent of the two? Jacob. He had a brain. Like a businessman. Okay, I'll sell it. So did he steal it? No. He didn't do anything unethical. I mean, it's questionable, but he didn't steal it. This is important. He did not steal the birthright. He bought it cheap. So he was a good businessman in that sense. And Esau was not very intelligent, and he could have just waited and done something different. So that's the way it worked out. Okay, that's how Jacob got the birthright. Was there another way in which he got the birthright? So let's think about this. So, first of all, let's look at the original nature Cain and the original nature Abel. So Cain is not bad. Cain is just the older brother. Abel is just the younger brother. Okay? So normally, how does the younger brother look towards his older brother? I'm sure you've got an expert here. What's the relationship between older brothers and younger brothers?
The elder is more in charge.
The older's more in charge, yeah?
And they have to take care of the younger ones.
And has to take care of the younger ones, yeah? So it's different, isn't it? Yeah. So the original nature of an older brother is to love his younger brother, take care of his younger brother, help his younger brother if he needs some help with his schoolwork. They go to school and, the younger brother gets bullied in the playground. What does the older brother do? Beat up the bully. Okay? That's the way it works, and it's the way it's supposed to work. You have to look after and protect your younger brother. And then if that's the way the older brother is, then how does the younger brother feel about the older brother? He looks up to him. Yeah, respects him. So it's natural for the older brother to love the younger brother, but the younger brother also has to be lovable. Yeah? And, also the younger brother needs to be humble, because the older brother is the older brother. And it may be the case that the younger brother is more intelligent than the older brother. Supposing the younger brother is better at maths than the older brother, how should the younger brother behave if he's better at maths than his older brother? So if the older brother loves his younger brother, and he realizes actually my younger brother is better at maths than I am, so and the older brother respects his younger brother, because the younger brother is actually humble, looks up to him and hero worships him, then the older brother might say, "Look, you're better at maths than I am, can you come and help me with my maths?" And the younger brother say, "Yes, I'm happy to do that." Okay, that's the original nature of the younger brother, to want to help that older brother, to do what he's better at doing than his older brother is. And so the older brother then wants to be guided by his younger brother, by Abel. And Abel's happy to share his intelligence and his knowledge and everything. And they want to work together and become cooperative. So we try and imagine, well, what out hunting, he came back starving. So what does that show about his ability to go and hunt food?
Very good.
Hmm?
He's very good, but...
Was he?
Oh, you mean he didn't get any...
He didn't catch any. He went out hunting, didn't catch anything. And again, when Isaac later on wanted him to go and hunt a deer or something, he was out for ages, because he wasn't actually a very good hunter. He's big and strong with lots of muscles, actually wasn't very good at it. And so how do you think Jacob then was in the kitchen? He's got what do you call it when he's shopping list? Can you go and get this and this and this and this? And Jacob and Esau didn't come back with the food he's supposed to come back with. So Jacob has to struggle. What am I going to make for Dad? Okay, I'm making some lentil soup. Actually, Dad likes eating meat, which is why he liked Esau, because Esau went and brought in the meat from time to time. So Jacob's having to, give poor old Isaac a vegetarian or vegan meal. So Jacob then, does he look up to Esau? No, he thinks Esau's big, strong, but he's lazy, he's not very clever. He goes out to bring in the food and he doesn't come back with the food. So he looks down on his older brother. Treats him, doesn't respect him. So what should have happened? This is what should have happened. Jacob should have thought, oh, my older brother, he's really strong and brave. He goes out and hunts deer where the wild animals are. I'm too scared to do that. He really looks up to his older brother. I admire your older brother. I think you're a hero going out where the wild animals are and you bring back the meat. But I notice that some days you go out hunting, you don't come back with anything. And so Jacob should have thought, okay, let's see if I can think of a good idea to help my older brother. And so Jacob could have said to Esau, look, Esau, older brother, I had an idea. How about finding out where the animals walk, the cows or whatever it walk, on their trail, and dig a big hole in the ground. And then cover the hole with branches and leaves, and hide in a bush. So when a cow comes along the trail and steps on the branches and the leaves, it'll fall into the hole. And you can kill it, and we'll have enough meat for the whole month. And Esau would have thought, oh man, I never thought of that before. That's a really good idea. Will you come and explain it to me in more detail to help me to do it? Okay, let's go and do it together. And then thought, okay, let's set up a business and we can corner the meat market in the Middle East. Become partners, working together. Yeah. And then as they were working together, Esau, the muscle, Jacob with the brains, then Esau would have thought, I'm the oldest son, and one day Mum and Dad are going to die, God forbid. One day they're going to die, and I'm going to become the head of the family. But actually, my younger brother, he's got more brains and intelligence than I have. He'd be a better head of the family than me. And so eventually Esau would have gone along to say to Isaac and Jacob, look, Mum and Dad, I know I'm older, I know I got the birthright, I know when you die, one day I'm going to be the head of the family. But to be honest, Jacob is much better than I am. He'd be a much better head of the family than I would. He's much better at organizing things. He's much better at making good decisions. He's much wiser than I am. I want to give my birthright to Jacob. That's what should have happened. Jacob should have won the birthright from Esau by winning Esau's love and respect. That makes sense? Instead of just buying it on the cheap. Yeah? That's what should have happened. Okay, so that's the original nature of Cain, original nature of Abel. But Jacob then was rather arrogant. He looked down on his brother, he disrespected his brother, and so it's very difficult for Esau to, cooperate and work like that. Anyway, sometime later, Rebekah overhears Isaac. Isaac wants to bless Esau. He said, I'm an old man. I might die any day now. Do me a favor, he says to Esau. Go out and hunt some game, because he liked the meat. Then make me a hearty meal, the kind that you know I like. Not like this lentils that Jacob serves me when he does. kind I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I can give you my blessing before I die." Rebekah was eavesdropping as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. What do you think about that?
What's eavesdropping?
Eavesdropping means she's standing outside the door listening to the conversation. Are you supposed to do that? Is one supposed to go around eavesdropping? No. So there's a problem here, isn't there? Yeah. Let's move on. So Rebekah then talks to Jacob. "Now, my son, listen to me. Do what I tell you. Go and get me 2 young goats, and I'll make a nice meal, the kind your father loves. Then you'll take it to your father. He'll eat and bless you before he dies." "But mother," Jacob said, "my brother Esau's a hairy man, and I have smooth skin. What happens if my father touches me? He'll think I'm deceiving him. I'll bring down a curse on myself instead of a blessing." "If it comes to that," said his mother, "I'll take the curse on myself. Now just do what I say, go and get the goats." So what do you think about that?
Not very principled.
No. So we'll analyze all this in a minute. So Jacob takes Esau's blessing, and Jacob deceives his father, receives Esau's blessing, and basically Jacob tells a lie. Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn." So let's analyze this. What's the relationship like between Jacob and Esau? Do they have a good relationship with each other or not? No, they don't. Okay, that's the problem. What's the relationship like between Isaac and Rebekah? Why is it? Why would you say it's dodgy?
She's listening to what he's saying without letting him know that she's listening.
Okay, so what should have happened?
You should discuss it.
Yeah. So what should have happened is this. When they woke up in their sleeping bags or the massive, comfortable beds, they should have started off the day together. You might wonder why I know this, because my wife tells me this almost every day. Yes?
Here is not Isaac and Rebekah, it's Jacob, no?
No, we're looking at Isaac and Rebekah at the moment. We'll come to Jacob later. So Isaac and Rebekah, when they started off the day, should have started off prayer and Hundake. What are we going to do today? And Isaac said, "Well, I was thinking, why don't we I want to bless Esau." "Oh, why do you want to bless Esau?" And then Isaac would explain the plan. Okay? So obviously, Isaac had an idea in his head, and the main problem is he hadn't discussed it with Rebekah. So Rebekah only found out about Isaac's plan for that day when she eavesdropped. She overheard him talking to Esau. So how do I know this? Because one day, I had some friends round, some years ago, and my wife said, "I always like listening to my husband when he's talking to somebody on the phone." I thought, okay, interesting. "Why is that?" "Oh," I said to her, "Why?" She said, "Oh, it's the first time I find out what your plans are." Okay. It sounds like the Isaac-Rebekah thing. Okay. So that's the problem. Isaac had a plan, but he hadn't shared his plan with his wife. He hadn't communicated with his wife. This is one of my wife's favorite words, communication. So you can see they don't have a good relationship. He doesn't communicate with Rebekah. And so do you think Rebekah respects Isaac? No, she doesn't treat Isaac with respect. There's a difficult relationship there. He doesn't share his heart and his ideas and plans with her. Not sure why. And obviously she doesn't respect him. So if she'd overheard Isaac talking to Esau like that, then when Esau left, Rebekah should have gone into Isaac and said, "Hi, honey, what are your plans for today? Would you like a cup of tea or coffee?" And then Isaac, "I saw you talking, I saw Esau, what were you talking to Esau about?" She should have, not gone on with a frying pan banging over the head, just gone in like that. "What were you talking about? What's the plan? Like a cup of tea, coffee, whatever." Had a conversation, And then Rebecca then would have understood what Isaac was planning to do. And they could have said, well, who should be blessing our son? Who should bless the sons? Just Isaac? No. Isaac and Rebecca should have blessed the sons together. My wife's second favourite word. Communication and together. So it shouldn't have just been Isaac blessing Esau. It should have been Isaac and Rebecca transferring, giving the blessing to Esau. You can see there, a lot of things, you can see the relationship between Isaac and Rebecca is not the way that it ought to have been. A problem. So what's the relationship like between Rebecca and Jacob then? Close, yeah. So so Rebecca loves Jacob, and Jacob loves Rebecca, but when Rebecca said, I want you to go and do this, get the goat, cook the goat, take it in, what did Jacob say? What should Jacob have said? Now, what should Jacob have said?
No.
He should have said, no. Have you discussed it with Dad? No. Well, I'm only going to do it if you discuss it with Dad first. Yeah, that's what Jacob should have said to Rebecca. But Jacob said, well, if I do it and, Dad realizes I'm lying to him, it's not a very good thing to do in the first place, and I get cursed, what's going to happen? Rebecca says, well, I'll take the blame. Can you take the blame for somebody else's sin? No. So is Jacob following his conscience? He knows it's wrong to lie and deceive his father, but he's still willing to do it because his mum says, I'll take the blame. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So did Jacob do the right thing? No. So that's when you unpack the story, you can see here there's a problem in the relationship between Jacob and Esau. They hadn't made what we call the foundation of substance, overcome fallen nature. There's a problem in the relationship between Isaac and Rebecca, conjugal relationship. Sibling love, not right. Conjugal love, not right. Relationship between Rebecca and Jacob is also not right. That's a parental relationship. So Jacob isn't behaving as he ought to behave in terms of children's love and respect for his parents. And then Rebecca obviously loves one son more than the other. Is that a good thing to do? No. So lots of mistakes that are going on here. So what went wrong then? Jacob and Esau haven't overcome the fallen nature, lack of communication between Isaac and Rebecca. Rebecca doesn't ask Isaac. Rebecca dominates Jacob, not supposed to dominate your children. Jacob doesn't follow his conscience, and then Jacob goes on and actually lies to his father, deceives his father. Is deceiving your father a good thing to do? No, not good to deceive anybody. And basically, he's stealing Esau's blessing. It's not his blessing, it's Esau's blessing, the blessing Esau should get. Jacob essentially is stealing it. Is that a good thing to do? So and then is deception justified? No. So we saw that Chambumo-ron slide. It says Rebecca did the right thing in deceiving Isaac. No, it's not the right thing. There was a misunderstanding of the nature of this story, what's really happening. So what needs to be restored? The relationship between Adam and Eve. The man needs the respect of his wife. Man needs to love his wife, become a good subject. A woman needs the love of her husband. A woman needs to respect her husband, become a good object. So I'm not going to go into that. Okay, so this is the blessing that Isaac wanted to give Esau, but he ended up giving Jacob. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. And those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. What do you think about the quality of that blessing? What's it all about? Grain and new wine, this is about wealth. Lord over your brothers is about power. It's about wealth and power. Okay. Anyway, Esau returns. And Isaac trembled with a great trembling and said, "Who then was it who hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it before you came and I blessed him? And he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he cried an intensely loud and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But Isaac said, "I have no more blessing to give." Okay, so this broke Esau's heart. You know, he loved his father. He loved his father. Very good, you know, close to his father. And he wanted more than anything to receive his father's blessing. And now he finds out that his younger brother has stolen his blessing. And so, of course, he's brokenhearted, and so is Isaac. He trembled with a great trembling. He thought, my goodness, this reminds me of the Cain and Abel story. And so now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I'll kill my brother Jacob." So what's Esau was practicing filial piety. He doesn't want to break his father's heart by killing his brother. He's going to wait until his dad dies, and then he'll go and kill Jacob. So, you know, Esau then is not like Cain. He doesn't lose it. Even though he feels really angry and upset, he doesn't lose control of himself in the way that Cain lost control of himself and murdered his brother. Jacob then is able to fulfill the first blessing and manage things much better than, you know, hasn't got that kind of fallen nature. And so there's no relationship. Anyway, this father says in Divine Principle, mother-son cooperation, since it was a mother and son who allowed Satan to enter and bear the fruit of sin, according to the principle of restoration, through indemnity, a mother and son must separate from Satan through their joint efforts. So what should have happened here is Rebecca then should have restored Eve and Sarah's role by helping her sons to love each other. This is Cain and Abel didn't love each other. Eve didn't teach them how to love each other, which is what you do. You got children playing with toys. One child, you know, the younger child usually takes the older child's Lego or something and smashes it, and the older child gets upset, or takes the older child's, you know, something, and the older child wants it back, refuses to give it back, so it gets beaten up. Anyway, so a good mother then will come in and say, when both the children are probably crying, what happened? And they want to hear the story from each side. Okay, now if you want to play with your brother's toy, you should say, "Can I borrow your toy, please, to play with?" Yes. And then if your brother asks you and you say yes, then he can play with it. Now if you want it back, you have to say, "Can I have my toy back, please?" And then you have to give it back. Yeah? You can't snatch things and get into a fight about it or break something, you know. So that's the job of a parent, usually, you know, particularly a mother with young children, teach them how to ask, how to apologize, how to forgive, and how to make up. Eve didn't do that with Jacob and Esau. Sarah should have done the same with Ishmael and Isaac. Again, it didn't work out. So Rebecca, though, favored Jacob based upon her dream. And that wasn't a good plan, because, you know, one of the reasons, you know, it says that Isaac loved Esau more than he loved Jacob. He could probably see, actually, Jacob is Rebecca's favorite. Esau isn't being loved and taken care of by his mum, in which case I'm going to, you know, make him feel loved. Yeah, I think that's may have been what was going on there. So you have to, you know, love your children equally, and they have to feel like they're loved equally. It's really important. Otherwise you get a disaster of Cain and Abel, Isaac and Jacob and Esau, Joseph and his brothers. The main lesson of this stories is you have to love all your children equally, not have any favorites. That's the same for your school teacher, the same thing. You have favorites, it doesn't help anything. Just keep it to yourself. So anyway, what she did do, which is good, she saved Jacob's life by sending him to Haran. But persuading Jacob to go and steal Esau's birthright, or to steal Esau's blessing, was not a good thing to do. And you might wonder, as people usually do, he's making all this up himself. Well, to what Father said. Cain and Abel should naturally work together, and because Eve initiated the fall, she should help them to cooperate as restitution. This is the basis of mother-son cooperation of the providence. It's not about Rebecca and Jacob, it's about Rebecca getting Esau and Jacob to get on with each other and become good brothers. Jacob was in the position of Abel, Esau was in the position of Cain. Rebecca, their mother, was in Eve's position. Since Eve bore Cain and Abel as a fruit of the fall, Rebecca was in a position to restore that by assisting Jacob to restore his heavenly position, which is to be a good younger brother and to win his older brother's heart, and in that way to regain the birthright. As Father said again later, the way of the mother, Eve, is to unite Cain and Abel and bring them to Adam. Again, very significant there. That's the job. Anyway, so Rebecca, though, she told Jacob, look, your brother's really upset with you. He wants to kill you. Why don't you go and stay with my brother Laban, who lives in Haran? So Jacob said, okay, I'll go and stay with Uncle Laban, but before I go, I'm going to go and say goodbye to Dad. So Jacob goes in to see Isaac and tells Isaac, I'm off to stay with Uncle Laban. And then, so Isaac then summoned Jacob and blessed him. He said, before you go, come and see me. And Isaac blessed Jacob. And Isaac said to Jacob, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so you may take possession of the land where you now live as an alien, the land God gave to Abraham. So what do you think about that blessing compared to the one that Isaac wanted to give to Esau? What?
It's a better blessing.
Yeah, this is the 3 blessings. Yeah, be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over the land. You're the heir to Abraham. This is the birthright blessing, is to become the heir to Abraham. Normally, it would have been Esau, but Isaac decided to give this blessing, the birthright blessing, to Jacob. One, he knew that Jacob had acquired the birthright, so he had the legal right to it. But at the same time, you could see actually Jacob is a person who's more qualified to be the heir to Abraham. He's more qualified to receive this blessing than Esau. That makes sense?
Yes.
So, have you ever heard any other lecturer saying this and pointing this out? No. Why not? Because nobody reads the Bible. They just pick out a few verses here and here to justify a particular theology, but they don't actually find out what really happened. There's a problem in our community. Nobody reads the Bible and studies these stories and tries to make sense of these stories to understand what was really going on.
I always wonder why Isaac didn't just give this other blessing to Esau, so they would each have had a blessing.
But it wasn't. He didn't have the birthright.
Fair.
Sorry?
That's what I thought would be fair.
Yeah, but he didn't. But Jacob was the one who had the birthright, so Jacob had the right to this blessing. Isaac couldn't give Jacob's blessing to Esau because Esau didn't deserve it. And that's the whole point. So the thing is then, what had gone on? I thought I made all this up myself, but then I read Jonathan Sacks, and oh gosh, he discovered it before me. I actually wrote him a letter, said, oh, what about this? And then I read his book, oh, goodness me. I thought I'd discover something new. Anyway, so what Jonathan Sacks said. Had Rebekah spoken to Isaac on the day of the blessing, Isaac might have said something that would have changed the entire course of their and their children's and the whole of human history, their lives. Imagine Isaac saying this, of course I know that it will be Jacob and not Esau who will continue the covenant, but I have 2 quite different blessings in mind, one for each of our sons. I'll give Esau a blessing of wealth and power, because that's what he wants. So may God give you the dew of the heaven and the richness of the earth. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. And I'll give Jacob the blessing God gave to Abraham and to me, and also to Noah, the blessing of children and the promised land. I'm going to get annoyed sometimes. I think, I've discovered something new. That's somebody else much more knowledgeable than me already worked it out. So that's the way it is. This is a traditional, educated. So all I can say is, I've drunk too much old wine. That's why when I see this new wine, I'm thinking, this is rubbish. Ugh. That makes sense? This is the problem. We think new wine and new wineskins, but, the old wine is better, to be honest. And, if people understood the story this way, then they'd also recognize, actually, this new explanation, or not just a new explanation, the explanations always exist in our community about Rebecca did the right thing and, persuading Jacob to go and deceive Esau, to deceive Isaac so he could get the blessing. But as it says in the Bible and in the rabbinic commentaries, Isaac had it all worked out. The problem was, Isaac had it all worked out in his head, but he didn't do what? He didn't discuss it with Rebecca. Isaac wasn't a fool. Just because he's blind, it doesn't mean he was going insane or, whatever. He had it all worked out. He just should have talked to Rebecca about it. And that was the problem, the relationship between Isaac and Rebecca. Anyway, there you go. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Leave that. No. So it should have happened this way. So again, Jacob tricked Esau. This is Giljas Sayu, the wife of President Yu, wrote the Black Divine Principle. She's the one that Father asked to put all the colours into the Divine Principle. Anyway, so she's read it a lot. Jacob tricked Esau twice in order to take Esau's elder sonship. Once with a lentil stew and tricked him again when receiving Isaac's blessing. However, that actually wasn't the correct way according to the principle. Has any other lecturer said that? No. Does anybody read these books? No. It's a problem. People don't read and think. Jacob wanted to inherit the rights of the elder son, so he should have served and behaved well to his older brother. By behaving well, he should have taught him how to hunt and set up a business. Then the older son's heart would have been moved and he would have said, "Yes, you are not only smarter than me, but better in every aspect. So you should be my elder brother." Not older, but my elder brother. If Jacob brought his older brother into natural subjugation like this, so much could have been saved in the course of indemnity. Okay, so again, this is the way it is. This is the old wine, not the new wine, which had been taught for the last 50 years. So should Jacob have gone to Haran? Did Jacob, as Abel, become really one with Esau as his Cain, thus subjugating Satan completely? Not originally. In other words, he should have done it in order to get the blessing, in order to get the birthright. Jacob should have won his blessing in his native home in total harmony with Esau and not have had to go to Haran. However, he had to escape from the danger brought about by Esau's intention to kill him. Thus, the condition of indemnity was not completed. Yeah, so there's plan A, meat business, plan B, plan C, that's just the way it works. Things go wrong, then God puts in place another plan. Things go wrong there, switch to another plan, So this is consequences. Now let us count the consequences. It says, Isaac, old and blind, felt betrayed by Jacob. He trembled violently when he realized what had happened, saying to Esau, "Your brother came deceitfully." Esau likewise felt betrayed and experienced such violent hatred towards Jacob that he vowed to kill him. Rebekah was forced to send Jacob into exile, thus depriving herself, where he was for 21 years, thus depriving herself of the company of the son she loved far more than for more than 2 decades. As for Jacob, the consequences of the deceit lasted a lifetime. resulting in strife between his wives. He should not have got married, had 2 wives, and even between his children, Joseph and the 11 brothers. Few and evil have been the days of my life, he said to Pharaoh as an old man. So many lives scarred by one act, which is not even necessary in the first place. Isaac did in fact give Jacob the blessing of Abraham, without any deception, knowing him to be Jacob and not Esau. So, which is the better explanation? The one you normally hear from lecturers, or this? You have to decide yourself. Then you have to think, okay, that's what it means to evaluate things. Okay, I'm now hearing the old wine. Now I can evaluate some of these new ideas which are coming out, that Rebecca did the right thing in deceiving Isaac because, that's to restore Eve deceived. Okay, let's have so what's the time now? It's 20. Oh, stop it.
Yeah, we usually finish at 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So you can either do a little taster or we finish here.
Okay, I'll just have a look back at this slide which I was on, from which I went off to somewhere. Okay, so, Jacob and Esau. So it says there, Rebecca, the wife of Isaac, deceived her husband and the firstborn Esau, so that her younger son Jacob could receive the blessing and restore the birthright. That was a huge mistake, what she did. It was also a mistake what Jacob did. It was also a mistake what Isaac did. And who's the only innocent party here? No, Isaac should have communicated with Rebecca. Who's the only one who didn't do anything wrong? Esau. He's the only one who didn't do anything wrong, actually. He never killed his brother, etc., and they made up in the end. Esau, who was the older brother, Cain, was the only one who didn't have any fallen nature in that sense. He demonstrated incredible love for his dad. Loved his dad very much, even though his mum didn't take care of him and love him. And even though he's tricked by his brother, Jacob, over and over again. So it's interesting. He was a good person, just not a very intelligent person. That's all I can say. Yeah. Well, it depends how you like them. Yeah, so that's all I can say. He was a good person, a good older brother, but unfortunately he didn't have a good younger brother at that stage. Jacob's really arrogant, and, etc., etc. The relationship between Tamar, the daughter-in-law of Judah, and her sons Perez and Zerah was reversed in the womb, resulting in the restoration of the birthright. That's also an interesting story. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. So the birthright of the firstborn, representing evil, anyway, is returned to the secondborn, who represented evil. That's interesting. The birthright of the firstborn, representing evil, is returned to the secondborn, who represented evil, and the foundation of national victory is laid by the people of Israel, who built up the foundation of restoration of the lineage, resulting in the birth of the only begotten son and only begotten daughter. Now, how does the younger brother represent evil then?
Must be a mistake.
Yeah, lots of mistakes, I'm telling you.
Both of them are representing evil.
Anyway, at the end of the day, everyone has fallen nature, and the fallen nature of Abel is to be arrogant, and the fallen nature of Cain is, I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, it's, yeah. Anyway, so, this is a relationship then which Judah had with Tamar. So who became the ancestor of the Messiah? Judah. Why was Judah the ancestor of the Messiah? Was he the oldest son? Was he the youngest son? is the fourth son. Okay, so to make a foundation to receive the Messiah, what do you need to do?
Foundation of faith and foundation of substance.
Okay, foundation of faith, basically believing in God, living a spiritual life, yeah. And foundation of substance is what?
He saved his brother, like his brother to Joseph, and he got set into
Okay.
Egypt instead of killing him.
Right. Okay, so overcoming foundation of substance is overcoming a fallen nature. Okay. So usually the focus is upon Cain overcoming his fallen nature, but do you think Abel has fallen nature as well? Do you think Abel has fallen nature? So if the original Abel didn't have fallen nature, Cain wouldn't have killed him. Yeah. If Jacob, when he was young, didn't have fallen nature, he would have treated his older brother differently. If Joseph, when he was the youngest, didn't have fallen nature, he wouldn't have got sold off into slavery. So that's the problem. Abel has fallen nature, and also Cain does. So if you look at Judah then, he was not the oldest son. Okay, so normally Reuben was the oldest son, and normally the oldest son is the one who represents the parents, or at least the father, taking care of the younger brothers. But actually, the other brothers, they listened to Judah. So in that sense, even though Judah was the younger brother, younger than his three older brothers, they recognized that he was elder. And so they listened to him. And when Judah said, let's send Joseph off into slavery, let's sell him, then they did it, instead of killing him, which is what Simeon wanted to do. Okay. So he was a good younger brother. He won the respect of his older brothers. They saw he was wiser than they were, etc., etc. But then when it came to a relationship with Joseph, then they went down. The brothers all went down to buy grain, and Joseph managed to do things so that Benjamin got arrested, put in prison. The brothers went home, and then when they yeah, and then they're going to, yes, so then, that's right, and then Joseph set it up, so Benjamin had the silver cup when they were going home. Joseph complained, the brothers were brought back, Benjamin was held up as being a thief, and so he's going to be thrown into prison. And at that point, all the other brothers could have said, bye-bye, Benjamin, naughty boy, we're going home. But at that point, Judah said, if I go home without my younger brother, it's going to break my father's heart and he's going to die. Take me and put me in prison instead of my younger brother, so my younger brother can go home. So here, Judah, first of all, he's a good younger brother, winning the respect of his older brother, so he overcame that fallen nature, not behaving arrogantly to his three older brothers. Then he's been a good older brother, willing to sacrifice his life for the sake of his younger brother. So he's a good older brother and a good younger brother. So he overcame the fallen nature of the younger brother, arrogance. He overcame the fallen nature of the older brother as well, willing to exchange his life for the life of his brother Benjamin. And at that point, everything got sorted out. So that's why Judah then was an extraordinary person and became the ancestor of the Messiah, because he set that tradition of an older brother should sacrifice his life for the sake of his younger brother. Which is exactly what Father said. And that's why he becomes the ancestor of the Messiah. And then the question is, well, how did he get to be that point? So there's a story in between Judah selling Joseph to slavery and them running out of food, the famine. So the story in between is a story with Tamar. And people wonder, why is that story of Tamar there? What's the significance of it? So what happened then is Judah got married to this lady, had two sons. What were they called? No, three sons. Oh my gosh, my memory is terrible. had 3 sons. No, the 3 sons of Judah. Gosh, I'm sorry, my memory's just. Anyway, so they found a person who they wanted the older son to marry. That was Tamar. Anyway, so it says in the Bible that God killed the oldest son because he's a bad person. Anyway, he died obviously before they could consummate the marriage. So the oldest son died without any descendants. And so traditional understanding and tradition in those days everywhere was that everybody should have a descendants. They decided, okay, Tamar, you have a relationship with his younger brother, the middle brother, and then he can make sure that your older brother has descendants. But the middle brother, Onan, refused to have sex with her, and so he died. And then there was the youngest brother, and then Judah thought, oh, I better not let him have sex with Tamar, otherwise he might die as well. So they sent Tamar off back home. Anyway, so Tamar went home, and then she felt, I need to have descendants for Judah, but also for my husband. And in the tradition of those days, either you have to have sex with the brother, and if there isn't one around or doesn't want to, then the man's father can have that relationship. That's the tradition and custom in those days. So she thought, okay, in order to continue my husband's lineage and Judah's lineage, I need to have a sexual relationship with Judah. So she dressed up, and Judah, after his wife had died, had a relationship with Tamar, and he didn't recognize who Tamar was. She's very modest. And then Judah said, I'm sorry, I haven't got anything to give you. And so Tamar said, well, give me your belt and your staff and your ring, and then when you come back tomorrow with something to pay me with, then you can have them back. Anyway, Judah sent a friend along to do the payment, and the lady who was thought to be a prostitute wasn't there. So Judah went home. Anyway, some months later, they've discovered and realized that Tamar was pregnant. And so Judah heard that his daughter-in-law was pregnant. So he had her brought in front of him and could have had her put to death, again under the customs of those days, because she would have committed adultery. Anyway, so she said she sent a message, look, the person who is the father of my child is the person who owns this ring, this staff, and this belt. And so when Tamar saw the ring, the staff, and the belt, he realized he was the one who had this relationship with his daughter-in-law. And what could he have done? He could have said, no, don't know who those are, have her put to death. In which case he would have saved face in front of his friends. But instead of doing that, he said, no, actually they belong to me. I am the father. She is more righteous than I am. So he's more concerned about telling the truth and being honest and transparent than protecting his face and not being shameful in that sense. And so he saved her life. And so from that point, Judah then realized, he said, I'm sorry, she is more righteous than me. So it's the first time in the Bible you find someone saying a woman is better than I am. It's changed. And so as a result of that, Judah started to change. So when he found himself in a situation in front of Joseph, then he was willing to exchange his life for the sake of his brother, because he realized, I don't want what happened to Joseph to happen to Benjamin. I made a mistake then. I'm not going to make the same mistake this time. Jacob's heart was broken when Joseph disappeared and he thought was dead, because that's what we said. I'm not going to break father's heart a second time. And so the reason why he changed is because of his encounter with Tamar. That's what changed him. And so he and Tamar then became the ancestor of the Messiah. And so Judah, then, there were 11 sons, 12 sons, 12 tribes of Israel. 10 of the tribes of Israel were taken away by the Assyrians when they invaded. Two tribes are left, the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. Benjamin was a very small tribe, they intermarried, and so you ended up basically the tribe of Judah. So that's where the word name Jew comes from. All Jews are descended from Judah. That's the way it is. The other tribes, they disappeared. Yeah. So when we talk about change of lineage, going all the way just with Jesus, it's all Jews were descended from Judah, and a result of this process of the change of lineage, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Judah and Tamar. They're all born in that sense like Jesus was born, because fallen nature is overcome through that lineage in many different ways, lots of other ways further down the line as well. Anyway, so for me that's interesting. It's not that Jesus was just a Jew, born without original sin, like all other Jews were and are. Okay, I'll stop there. So thank you all very much. I have to put on another one. It's going to take me a whole year to get through all these lectures. Anyway, as I said, I find it interesting looking into these things, thinking about these things, trying to work these things out, what's going on here. Okay. Just close with a prayer. Most beloved Heavenly Parent, we thank you so much for being able to gather together this today to look at and examine these lectures of Chambumo-ron that have been delivered and been taught to people in our spiritual community all over the world. We pray we can really think about these things and understand what is going on and to make sense of it so we can live a good life ourselves. We thank you and pray for all those who are off the way to Korea now, especially those who are going to the blessing. They can have a safe journey and a profound and deep experience when they're there, going to the new temple. It can be a life-changing experience to come into a deeper, more profound relationship with you and to know that you're our parent, you're our father, you're our mother, and we are your sons and daughters. I pray that our own children can understand that deeply, and so we don't have a second generation, but also a third and fourth and fifth generation as well. I offer this prayer in my name, William Haynes, the Central Blessed Family, in attendance to Holy Mother Han. Amen. Adieu.